Have you ever thought about the invisible forces that really shape a country's economy? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on an organization you've probably heard of, maybe even seen, but might not fully get: Pakistan Customs.
So, what in the world do a cricket team, international trade, and the British Empire have in common? I know, it sounds like a weird riddle, right? But the answer is Pakistan Customs. And trust me, by the end of this, you're going to see exactly how these totally random-sounding things are all connected.
All right, so let's start with the basics. What is Pakistan Customs? Because it's not just, another government office. We're talking about a real cornerstone of the country's civil service, one that's tasked with a truly critical job.
Yep, that's right. This isn't just any group. It's a premier organization, staffed by officers from the Pakistan Customs Service, the PCS. And look, this is considered one of the most elite groups to get into in the entire country. So what that tells you is that we're dealing with a super professional, absolutely vital organization right at the heart of how this state works.
And this quote really nails their whole mission. It's kind of like two sides of the same coin. On one hand, their job is to keep the economy humming, right? Making sure legitimate trade and travelers can move smoothly and efficiently. But on the other hand, they have to be the nation's shield, guarding against anything and everything illegal. It's this constant, super high-stakes balancing act.
Okay, so that's the big picture mission. But what does that actually look like on the ground? What do they really do, day in and day out?
Well, it really boils down to these 5 core functions. First up, revenue collection. This is huge because it funds everything the country does. Then you've got managing the import and export of legitimate cargo, making sure businesses get what they need. Number 3 is trade facilitation, which is all about making it easier for companies to do business globally. Fourth, they're a trade regulator, kind of like a referee making sure everyone plays by the rules. And finally, the big one, the preventative role. This is about stopping the bad stuff, drugs, weapons, you name it, from ever getting into the country.
So how do they actually collect all that money for the government? Mostly, it comes down to something called duties. That's just the official word for the taxes placed on goods coming in and out. And this isn't just some random number, it's all laid out in the Customs Act of 1969. Think of that act as their rule book. It's the legal foundation for pretty much everything they do, and it's their #1 tool for bringing in revenue.
But to really get a feel for the organization today, we've got to rewind a bit. Its history goes back, way back, more than 100 years. So let's take a quick look at the timeline to see how it all came to be.
So the story really kicks off way back in 1878, under the British Crown with the Sea Customs Act. Then jump forward to 1914, and you get the iconic Custom House in Karachi, a major hub. A really huge moment was in 1969 when they established the modern Customs Act, that rule book we just talked about. But the most recent game changer? That was in 2010, with a massive reorganization that turned it into the modern, specialized agency we see today.
And that 2010 reorg was a really smart move. See, before then, Customs was responsible for all taxes, domestic stuff, international stuff, the whole shebang. But this reorganization created a brand new group, the Inland Revenue Service, to handle taxes inside the country. And that freed up Pakistan Customs to focus like a laser on its main job: managing global trade and securing the borders in a world that's getting more complicated every day.
And because they could specialize like that, they've evolved into something much bigger and more powerful. We're not just talking about a tax collection agency anymore. This is a full-on, modern border control force. Their mandate now goes way beyond just taxes. They're tackling everything from fake designer bags to complex money laundering schemes.
Just look at this list. They're safeguarding trade policies, protecting intellectual property. Yeah, that means stopping counterfeit goods dead in their tracks. They're also managing super complex transit trade deals, and they're a key part of the fight against money laundering and smuggling. This is the playbook for a really sophisticated 21st century agency.
And get this, their reach is just staggering. We're not just talking about the coastline. Their legal jurisdiction extends 200 nautical miles out into the open sea. This massive area is called the Pakistan Customs Waters, and it's where they hunt for smugglers. To give you an idea of how big that is, we're talking about a patch of ocean that's larger than the entire United Kingdom. That's some serious territory.
But okay, after all that talk about law enforcement and massive sea jurisdictions, there's another side to this story, a surprisingly human one. They're involved in projects that you would just never expect, things that go deep into the community.
And here's where we circle back to that crazy question I asked at the beginning. Believe it or not, Pakistan Customs actually runs a public school. They sponsor a professional cricket team, and they're working with the UN on really cool initiatives to help women and young people get into cross-border business.
I mean, how incredible is that? It's a level of community involvement you just don't see coming.
So, really, the takeaway here is that their role is woven into the very fabric of the nation, stretching all the way from the high seas right down to the local cricket pitch.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. We've just zoomed in on one country's customs service, but these gatekeepers, they exist everywhere, in every country. So it makes you wonder, right? How do these vital and often invisible agencies shape our daily lives, our economy, our security, even our culture, in ways we probably never even stop to consider?